All right. I'd like to get started. Thank you, everyone, for coming here today to remember the life of Light. For those who don't know, I go by Short, and I'm the Guild Master of TOV, a community that Light was a member of for over 7 years. Um, so whether you knew him as Lightrain, Light Flash, or Marcus, he brought light and levity to everyone and everything he did. Light and I joined TOV around the same time, and I honestly thought he had been in the guild for years. He was just that kind of person who everyone likes and makes hanging out with him just fun. He was an officer with me and served the guild with compassion and grace, quick to empathize, and even better at supporting me through difficult times. Light touched so many lives, and all for the better. I want to give others a space to speak. I'll call folks up and who messaged me and say we'll speak after them. This memorial is being recorded so that people who knew Light but don't have Discord can see just how much he was loved. If you want to be added to my list, please reach out via message in game or on Discord. After everyone has spoken, I invite everyone to spend time in different Discord channels in small groups to share your favorite stories of Light, jokes, and support one another. The first speaker here today will be Bubbles.
Okay, let me switch to not push to talk.
And after Bubbles will be her husband, Maud.
Okay, I'll stand up there at the top.
Yeah.
Well, if Lightrain were giving this speech instead of me, I'm sure he would have started off with something like, "Okay, guys, no need to roast me. I'm done." because Lightrain's public persona featured many, many bad puns. Puns and jokes were his preferred way of interacting with the world around him. He could intentionally brighten up anyone's day, and he often did so, not only with the guild, but with the many doctors and nurses he interacted with during the course of his 5-year battle with cancer. He actually spent time before each clinic appointment thinking of good jokes to tell the medical personnel when he got there, and here are some of those jokes. "I told my doctor I feel like I'm shrinking. She wasn't helpful, told me I needed to be a little patient." Here's one he used on cute nurses. "I could be a splendid daddy. That's like a sugar daddy, just without any funds." And then when he contemplated going bald from chemo, Lightrain quipped, "I did see someone selling a $1 wig. It was a small price to pay." And I think some of you may have heard that one in Guild. And then once when he had one of those large perforated face covering plastic masks, you know, the ones that restrain your head for an MRI scan or in his case for radiation treatment, Lightrain growled in his best Hannibal Lecter imitation, "Hello, Clarice." And when I wish Lightrain a seamless and productive port installation, now for those of you not familiar with ports, there are semi-permanent holes in the chest to which you can attach a drug delivery line. Lightrain said, "I will report how that goes." And then finally, when folks commented on how he managed to come up with all his groan-worthy jokes and puns, Lightrain responded, "I stored them in my database." So, as you can see, puns were central to Lightrain's persona. And while I wanted to invoke the spirit of Lightrain by invoking some of his humor, I'd also like to give everyone here some insight into the more private side of Lightrain, which not everyone knew. For nearly all his adult life, Lightrain, whose real name was Marcus Fisher, lived alone in a house his grandfather had built as part of a small evangelical Christian community in Arkansas. It's hard to think of Lightrain as religious because he never discussed or imposed his religion on anyone else, but it was very real and very personal to him. That faith provided him with a path forward through a vicious sequence of excruciating medical events, from the initial diagnosis of stage 4 rectal cancer at age 43, to being fitted with a colostomy bag, to being told by Mayo Clinic that there was no point in treating him because he would die within 3 months anyways, and I would note that was 4 years ago, to the discovery and extraction of multiple life-threatening blood clots in his arteries and veins, to countless chemo and radiation treatments, and ultimately to brain surgery to remove a 2-inch diameter tumor that was causing him to lose speech and memory. In his own words, Lightrain said of his faith, quote, "One of the great benefits of my faith is that I feel at peace in my soul despite everything, and that this is something I'm grateful to have. Yeah, life sucks sometimes, but overall I'm at peace. It is really strange to be able to say that in my situation, but I'm 100% at peace spiritually. Yeah, physically my mind may be at rest, in unrest about life things, but I feel good about my eternal outlook. All the physical world will fall away, and I will finally be able to have the rest I've been promised." Some of you may have caught the fact that Lightrain was supposed to live only a few months after he was initially diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, but he ended up living a total of 5 years. His faith played a large part in that, but he also had tremendous innate persistence. I mean, if Lightrain had a goal, he could grind every day, all day to get there. In game, one of the things Lightrain really wanted was the original Brutosaur mount that cost 5 million gold. Now, me, being me, I instantly gave up on wanting that mount as soon as I saw the price. Oh, but not Lightrain. He bought 5 WoW accounts, leveled up a druid on each, joined those accounts together in a quint boxing setup so he could take all 5 druids at once on herbing runs. That 5 sum of druids he nicknamed Cinco de Farmo because they spent all day doing nothing but farming herbs. He had routes, he had spreadsheets. By his own calculations, he was collecting 892 herbs a minute, and he was doing that for 8 to 12 hours a day for months. It was insane, and yeah, he had that title too because, well, he was Lightrain the Insane, and he could just dedicate himself to a goal until he got it. Artifact power in Legion too. He was always grinding, always surpassing the next person in guild, pushing himself to max out every little bit towards that goal. There was one downside to Lightrain's ability to focus on a goal, namely that if he didn't have a goal, he got bored easily. And some of the times he disappeared from the game were due to just that. In addition to being deeply religious and awesomely persistent, Lightrain's character had that special extra dash of European flavor from having grown up in Switzerland. Lightrain's mom was from Florida, his dad was from Switzerland, and early on the family moved to Switzerland to evangelize their faith. Switzerland is where Lightrain grew up. Lightrain credited Switzerland for his quote-unquote cheesy jokes, and often talked about missing the mountains, though not the cold. Over the last 3 years or so, Lightrain came to visit us in person at our house, first in Maryland and then in New Mexico, and we enjoyed feeding him rusty and fondue, both of which he ate with extreme gusto. After finishing both vocational school and mandatory national military service in Switzerland, Lightrain came to the U.S. as a young adult to live in the house his maternal grandfather had left the family when he died. Lightrain was a machinist, and a well-trained one at that. Switzerland's reputation for precision engineering is legendary, and the credit for this goes back to their vocational training programs. So when Lightrain moved to the U.S., he had a ready-made skill set that was in high demand. He worked in a machine shop for a gun manufacturer with a specialty in electrode discharge machining, or EDM. EDM is a process of using sparks from an electrified wire to chip away at larger pieces of metal in order to sculpt those pieces into the desired shape. Lightrain was so considerate in his daily dealings with people, it was a bit odd that he ended up working for a gun manufacturer, but the incongruity didn't bother him. This was Arkansas, after all, and the job was convenient to his house. One of the things you'll find in TOV is that there are people here who are healing from some pretty bad situations. Lightrain was one of them. In addition to his struggle with cancer, he spent the entire time I knew him trying to make sense of a childhood with very distant parents who were extremely rigid and never expressed affection. He railed against the fact that he could not feel love no matter how many times people around him expressed it. He wanted to know the experience of both loving and being loved, and while he brought solace and joy to people around him with his jokes and personal attention, he himself could not feel the emotions he tried to bring to others. He would say that he knew the forms and motions to go through, but he lacked any of the feeling around them. It was his one regret that he would die without knowing love. If it is any solace, I'm pretty sure that Lightrain finally got to feel immense, awesome, powerful love soon after he died. Let me explain. When Lightrain first became ill, I was panicked and trying to think of something I could say or do that might make him feel better. I knew he was religious, and I knew there were books out there that described the experiences of people who had died and then been resuscitated, the tunnel of light, seeing angels, etc. So maybe something in that genre could be helpful. Several weeks of research later, I came across a research website that had about 4,000 firsthand accounts of these so-called near-death experiences from people all around the world whose heart and or brain, and sometimes both, had flatlined. What these people saw when they flatlined vary a lot, much as what people see at various locations on Earth varies a lot. There was by no means a universal experience of winged angels or fantastically beautiful gardens or family members greeting the newly departed, though many accounts, particularly from Western sources, did feature these. But there were some universal commonalities amongst all the accounts, just as everyone on Earth universally experiences things like gravity and sky. And one of those commonalities was the newly dead person feeling vast and overwhelming amounts of love. Whether this is a late stage of mental decomposition or truly the entrance to an afterlife, we'll never know. But either way, Lightrain will have finally felt the love he so wanted to feel, and I hope he can also feel the love we are expressing for him today. And I'll close with Lightrain's own words on death: lights out.
Thank you, Bubbles. Maud, it's your turn. And then, Drogday, you are up on deck.
Thanks, Bubbles, and thanks, Short. Um, you know, I've given literally hundreds of presentations in my life, but this is the hardest one so far. I wanted to start by saying a bit about my interactions with Lightrain in WoW and in TOV in particular. A few of you had known Light in game much longer than me, but I met him when he applied to TOV in July of 2018. Shortly after that, Battle for Azeroth was released, and Light and Bubbles and I started regularly running island expeditions together, which was great fun. At various points from then on, one or both of us were in regular dungeon groups with him as well. He was very upfront with the guild about his cancer diagnosis, posting at length about it in November 2020, soon after he found out. Despite various interruptions necessitated by his chemotherapy, radiation, or other treatments, he continued to push forward in game and raided with the guild fairly regularly until maybe 6 months ago. He cared deeply about the guild and served as an elected council member from April 2021 until May 2023. As many of you know, I have a group of folks, largely old friends from college, but also some WoW friends and others, who I've been getting together with for online board gaming almost every Friday evening since early 2020, when COVID made it hard to gather in person. A few years ago, Light expressed an interest and tentatively joined the group, and soon became a fixture. A few of those mutual friends are also with us tonight. As many of you have seen from Tusk's post in the Guild Discord, one of Marcus's favorite games was Ark Nova, and our Friday night group played a game of that 2 nights ago to honor his memory. That's a long, complex strategic game where you want to think ahead as many moves as you can. Ironically, or maybe just contradictorily, he also loved an online board game called Gremlins Inc., which is nearly the opposite: hilarious, chaotic, and an absolute exercise in futility to think more than one move ahead. Over the past couple years, I played at least 40 different games online with Marcus, many of them on Friday nights, but some in other spontaneous one on one sessions as well. He was fiercely competitive in every game we played, and occasionally exploded in frustration with particular games he was struggling with or when he had a long run of bad luck. But as Tusk had mentioned, he never wanted anyone to take it easy on him. As you just heard from Bubbles in passing, Marcus also visited us in person several times. The first was when we lived in Maryland, just outside Washington, D.C., and we enjoyed taking him for a round of sightseeing in downtown D.C., hanging around the National Mall, where many of the monuments and museums are, and we did a memorable day trip up to Pennsylvania to tour the Gettysburg battlefields. After Bubbles and I moved to New Mexico about 2.5 years ago, I decided to see if I could entice some of the gaming crowd to come visit for an in person get together. And Marcus was one of the first to say he really wanted to come, despite the challenges that travel posed for him. That Game Fest was not only successful, but became an annual tradition, with the third iteration just taking place at our home in Albuquerque this past July. Marcus made the trip and stayed with us for 10 days or so each time, and as you would expect, brightened each visit with countless jokes and impromptu puns. I'll miss Lightrain / Marcus in World of Warcraft. I'll miss him and feel a pang most Friday nights when we gather for online board gaming, and I'll miss him in person, even if it was only for a week and a half once a year. But I'm grateful for all the hours we did get to spend together and for the communities that we shared and that he poured his heart into. Thanks, everyone, for being here.
Thank you, Mike. Drogday, it's your turn, and I'll have something more to say.
So I didn't expect that I was going to say anything tonight, but as we were gathering, I was thinking back to the time I had with Light and some of my earlier experiences with him, and we all, or at least most of us, often kind of think about the humor side of him. You know, he loved his wordplay, as we've talked about. But I knew him for more than just that, because one of the first big interactions that I had with him was back in Nyalotha, which was the first raid that Nine and I did with TOV. And in Nyalotha, there was a boss that we affectionately referred to as Soccer Mom, because that boss featured using your character model to bump into these floating orbs of darkness to try and get them into the right portals and what have you. It was a very different mechanical ask than most of the encounters in Warcraft. And Stonefrog, our raid leader at the time, asked 3 people to learn it early, kind of figure out how to do some stuff. And it ended up that Rathan, Light, and myself were a trio, often working on this fight, bouncing these balls around and what have you. And Light was very, very good at these kinds of kind of mechanical character control. It helped that he played a demon hunter, a very mobile class. But I particularly remember, I suspect, if memory serves, that it was our first heroic kill of Soccer Mom, that one of the orbs had kind of gone offline and was certainly not going to be caught and get to the right place. And he did some sort of crazy movement juke thing. I don't even know exactly how he managed to pull it off, but he got that orb going the right direction, and we all marvel. Like, there was no way that we were going to succeed that try. And I remember he pulled it off. He did the amazing there and saved that pull. Got us, I think, that first kill that time. And so much excitement there. And there would be later instances where we'd have same kind of, hey, we need to put this ball in that hoop. I remember a achievement on Sanctum of Domination where there was a stationary ring and a pendulum that had a ring at the end of it, and you had to throw an orb that would pass through both the swinging ring and the stationary ring. And we told the rest of the raid, don't you worry about it. Light's going to take care of all of it. And yeah, we don't often think about his role as a kind of physical, positional, mechanical player in the raids. But that's what I knew him for, because that was some of the first things that he and I interacted with. So yeah, I wanted to make sure we were remembering him as more than just the master of wordplay, which he was as well. I don't want to shortchange that. But here's to you, Light, and that miracle shot.
After I speak, I'm going to give people a chance to speak if they haven't yet. But I would like to share some things that people asked me to share. One of Light's close friends in the Guild, Strange, wanted me to share that he would always say, life is like a good salad. It's all about time. THYME. And I think we all can say we had a good time with Light. He was a good friend, and he will be missed. A friend of the guild, and Thelen, who's currently on Fetals, is offering to share lanterns that we can release together. And I was hoping we could go down to the Stormwind docks and release them all as a group. It's a farewell. 3, 2, 1. Release. In 2V, we have a tradition. The last pull of the night, we use a toy called Gammon's Brain. In our last moment together, I asked that people gammon up.
Me, the lone one that uses the dual-headed ogre.
Gammon will save us. Gammon will save us. Gammon will save us.
Thank you all so much for being here tonight. It's a lot. And like I said, if people would like to stay in this channel or maybe group up in smaller groups and share stories and jokes, I think Light would have really appreciated that.